Hi, it's your renal nurse again. And on today's session, we are going to talk about the internal and external structures of the kidney. That's what the kidney is being made of, both on the inside and on the outside. And I believe at the end of this session, you will learn one or two things about the kidney, and you even appreciate the kidney more and more. And I am also pleading that you stay with me as we kickstart. Thank you. When we talk about the external structure, we are talking about what we can see with our eyes, our naked eyes. So the image before us is an image of a kidney. You can see, you can describe it based on what you see. The color here is reddish brown. We can now say that the kidney has a reddish brown color. This is the reddish brown. And we can also see the shape. We can say that the kidney has a bean shape. See, so we can also see from here an indentation on the kidney. These points here, it's an indentation. We can say that the kidney has indentation, and this indentation is called renal hilum. So hilum is a point of entry of the renal artery which bring blood. This red one is the renal artery. It supplies blood to the kidney. Then after filtration, the blood is now carried by the renal vein, this blue one. Then we can also see the ureter. Ureter drains urine from the kidney to the bladder. Then we can also see this green one, the lymphatic and nerve supply to the kidney. And let's talk about the measurements. The kidney measure 11 cm in length, 5 to 6 cm in the wideness, and then 3 cm in thickness. Finally, we are going to talk about the location of the kidney. The two kidneys are located at the back of the abdomen below the rib cage. From this image, you can see this is our rib cage up here. So the two kidneys lie below the rib cage in between the spine. This is the spine there. And that brings us to the end of the external structure of the kidney. When we are talking about the internal structure, so you should think of it like a multi-level water treatment plant with 3 main zones. One of the zones is the renal cortex. This is the renal cortex, and it is the reddish brown zone. This is where the filtering begins, like the initial screening of a water plant. So this is, as your blood is entering, this is the first point of entry that cleans the blood. Okay, it contains millions of tiny filters that filter the waste from your blood. When you move in from there, you get to the middle layer, which is the renal medulla. The renal medulla is the inner stripe zone with 8 to 18 cone-shaped structures called the pyramids. These are the pyramids. And you should think of the pyramids as concentration towers. This is where the urine is being concentrated, and this concentration helps to save water. Each of these pyramids have cups. See the cups there. We call it calyx. We have from this base, we have the minor calyx. Then you move down, that's the major calyx. It drains from the minor calyx into the major calyx before it gets to the renal pelvis. From here down is the renal pelvis. So the renal pelvis is the collecting system. It catches the urine. As the urine is being dripped down, it works as a funnel that catches all the urine, channel it to this ureter. See, then from the ureter, it moves down to the bladder for temporal storage. So you can summarize it in 4 steps. The first step is that blood enters the cortex, renal cortex. From there, it's useful substances are being saved by the medulla. From there, the waste substance now turn to urine. The urine is now being channeled by the renal pelvis to the ureter. From the ureter to the bladder. From bladder is being excreted. So in summary, I want you to know that the kidney filters about 50 gallons of blood daily, but only make about 1 to 2 quarters of urine, saving almost everything useful and getting rid of just the waste. Yeah, it's not everything that is being filtered that is excreted. Some are being used by the body. Okay, let's talk about the blood supply to this unique organ. So the major artery that supply blood to this organ is the renal artery, and the renal artery carries blood from the aorta. The blood being received is full of waste, the mineral waste, salt, and other metabolic waste. So this renal artery now divided into other smaller arteries like the segmental arteries, interlobar arteries, arcuate arteries, interlobular arteries, the afferent arterioles, and finally the glomerulus. Let's see, the glomerulus is like a tiny ball of spaghetti thin tubes, like tiny, wrapped together like a tube. You can see it from here. From this image, this is the glomerulus. So think of it like a tiny ball of spaghetti thin tubes, this glomerulus. So what then now happen? So as blood flows through these tiny vessels, pressure forces water and small waste molecules out of the blood and into the nephron filtering system. So you remember, nephron is the functional unit of the kidney. So useful stuff like proteins and blood cells are too big to pass through, so they stay in the bloodstream. Okay, so the kidney then decide what to keep. That's, we talk about the medulla of the kidney. That's where the reabsorption takes place. So reabsorbing water, nutrients, and minerals the body needs, and what to send to your bladder as urine. Those things that the body does not need, that's the waste now changed to urine, which now travel via the ureter to the bladder. We have talked about that. So after the blood has been filtered, the clean blood flows back out of the kidney through the renal vein, which is this blue one. So returning to the heart for it to be pumped around the body. And it is interesting for you to know that this action is a continuous thing. It keeps on cleansing and returning, cleansing and returning. That's the more reason you should keep the kidney healthy, for it to be able to cleanse the blood all the time.